I was gifted a copy of the Sleeping Dogs Definitive Edition last Christmas, as it had been sitting in my list of games I want to play. I played the game for the first time back when I was in college, and I remember really enjoying the setting and combat mechanics, but unfortunately, I never continued this playthrough. Sleeping Dogs was developed by United Front Games and was released back in 2012. I popped the game disc into my PS5 and started a new game. Or at least, I tried to, but the game sustained multiple crashes while in the initial loading screen after the main menu. I remember the same thing happened when I played Skyrim on the PS3 back in the day. No worries though. Just like back then, I would just send the crash report and reboot the game until it worked. Once I reached a certain point towards the end of the main game, crashes completely stopped, until I started playing the DLC. In Sleeping Dogs, you play as Wei Shen, a Hong Kong native who returned to the country after living in San Francisco and working there as a police officer. Wei was then picked up as a Hong Kong police officer and was assigned to befriend and infiltrate a local triad gang, the Sun On Yi, to take down the local gangs from the inside. In this game, you experience the brutality of triad life, where politics and murder go hand in hand. Wei fully embraced his role and became so invested in his gang politics and connections that I thought he was going to give up policing entirely. As the game progressed, it was nice seeing Wei's personal status in the gang increase as he earned more renown as a gangster. As you unlock more luxurious apartments in new areas of the map, they reflect how far Wei has come from the initial apartment in North Point. Throughout the game, I completed police missions that built onto the main story, introducing more fucked up shit other criminal groups were up to. These missions were interesting to play through and kept me wanting to see more police cases for further world building. Sleeping Dogs was a meaty open world game. I enjoyed shopping around for new clothing outfits and temporary upgrades for Wei. One of my favorite parts of the game consisted of riding my motorcycle to get everywhere. Initially, I was not used to the motorcycle controls because of Cyberpunk, but once I got used to the controls and operating on the opposite side of the street, I was zipping to each location with my motorcycles. While riding, I reveled in pushing the motorcycles as fast as they could go, and noticed that crashing into things was a little bit more forgiving than Cyberpunk. Also, the animation of backing up in the motorcycle is the most realistic I've seen in a game so far. I bought all the cool motorcycles I could find, and very rarely used cars to get around, unless it was the police cruiser. The game's combat is fun and exceptionally brutal, especially with some of the environmental finishes. Once I got used to parrying and using counterattacks, I sought out fights because I knew I had a good hold on the combat mechanics. It was also fun implementing new attacks learned from collecting Zodiac statues throughout the game. A couple of my favorite combat missions included the mission where you had to defeat hella monks, and the mission where you fought a bunch of dudes wielding knives, covered in poison with only a gold butcher knife. Races were pretty fun when I had the right vehicle, and I especially enjoyed the race that ran around the entire game map. Initially, I found that missions that included running after people, running away from the police, and vehicular pursuits were tough. But once I completed more of them, they became significantly easier. I loved seeing the variety of missions I could play through just from looking at the game map, and the story was very engaging for me as a lot of the characters were quite memorable. I enjoyed simple things like mindlessly exploring, beating people up to get items, hacking cameras, praying at shrines, customizing Wei's clothes, and blowing up all kinds of vehicles and missions. After completing the main story, I played through the 2 DLCs provided on the Definitive Edition disc. I started with the Year of the Snake DLC, which initially came out in 2013. This was incredibly fitting because 2025 is also the Year of the Snake. In this DLC, it was nice to see Wei operating as a beat cop for once. The DLC lacked a serious tone and was refreshing to play through after the fairly emotionally draining main story. The second DLC I played, Nightmare in North Point, was also fun and lighthearted as Wei beat the shit out of a bunch of ghosts taking over Hong Kong and whatnot. The game's visuals looked great for 2012. As I rode around at night, I couldn't help but appreciate seeing the reflective, wet asphalt while on the highways and residential streets. Character customizing options including baggy pants, V-neck t-shirts, GSP gear, and those rubber bracelets also screamed 2012. Ultimately, I enjoyed turning this game on, progressing through the main story, investigating interesting side cases, making my way around on a motorcycle super fucking fast, and fighting people. But mostly, I loved hearing all the NPCs yell at me in Cantonese. It really tied everything together and brought this game to life.